Looking to start a church, business, or nonprofit organization in 2021? Do you need help forming an LLC, applying for a copyright or trademark, revising church bylaws, crafting a succession plan, or developing a compensation package for your pastor and staff? Contact the law office of Travell Travis, a Richmond-based legal boutique focused on the needs of pastors, entrepreneurs, creatives in our community. Let's make your vision a reality in 2021. Visit TravellTravis.com. That's TRAVELL Travis.com. If you're concerned about the future of your organization when you step down, then Where Will the Mantle Fall? A biblical and legal guide to succession planning is a must-read for you. It delves into the scriptural and legal aspect of succession planning, characteristics of successors, the people, the process, church bylaws, common myths, even issues with nepotism. Where Will the Mantle Fall? Written by Richmond's own attorney, Pastor Travell Travis, and available at Amazon.com.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Mantle Mondays. We're so excited to be with you on tonight. I want to invite each of you to please like, to share, to comment, to post your questions on tonight. Inbox somebody. Let them know Mantle Mondays is on. I know you can watch the replay. We want you to catch it live tonight. I'm nearly in tears, overwhelmed with joy and excitement for our guest tonight. He indeed is one of my heroes in the faith. I followed his ministry for nearly 20 years on social media, the Word Network, the Rhema television network. He is the former presiding bishop of the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World. He is the senior pastor of the Greater Grace Temple in Detroit, Michigan. When I wrote the book, Where Will the Mantle Fall, there was one person I wanted to interview before writing the book, but I had never met Bishop Ellis. He didn't know me, and I was reluctant to reach out to him. But after releasing the book and starting Mantle Mondays and trying to figure out where to go next, the Lord laid on my heart to reach out to him. And I was surprised. He was so gracious to accept. And so I'm honored tonight to have none other than the Honorable Bishop Charles H. Ellis III tonight for Mantle Mondays. Let's receive Bishop Ellis on tonight.
Thank you so kindly for having me, my friend.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, healthy, staying safe, not putting anybody in harm's way, and I'm not going to let anybody put me in harm's way. That's the key.
I love that. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. You're coming from a civic engagement on tonight. My initial question to you is, for a person that's always busy, always on the road, how do you balance it all?
Well, I think that I'm figuring it out and must be doing a pretty decent job because, I thought that, virtual was going to really help me. Mm-hmm. I think it has stretched me because, now that you don't have to get on a plane and travel someplace, you take something at 4:00 and at 7:00 and at 8:15. And now you're running through all of this and now you got to go someplace and trying to get back, and because you got your phone, you're like, well, if I can't get back to my office with this pretty background, and that's not a screen, y'all, that's my office, I really do work. I'm not sitting home with pajamas on and I got a screen showing that that's not real. All that's real. I'm not saying I read all them books, but anyhow, it looks good, but that's a real background there. But no, I it has stretched me, man, and sometimes, I don't know, it seemed like, man, I'm maybe busier now. I'm just not traveling. I'm not sure, and maybe I am. I don't know.
Because I see you're an avid golfer. I see you're into sports. I see your pictures at a Pistons game, or I don't know if you go to the Tigers games that much. But
Absolutely.
how important is it to maintain good mental, physical, and spiritual? I also see you lifting weights in the gym. Why is that important to maintain good spiritual, emotional, and physical health?
My grandfather, who began this journey for the Ellises in Chicago, Illinois, he founded a church in 1934, a year before my father was born. And he pastored and made his demise with a heart attack in 1953 in November. So he was born in 1900. So do the math. I mean, he died at 53 years old. Now, if you're 8 years old, 53 is an old person.
Right.
Once you start getting up in age, you're like, that's really young, and a lot of the kids were older. My dad was 18, and there were two up under him, 15 and 12 years old, I think, somewhere around in there. But again, most of the other kids were out of the house. But still, that 53 is young. 53 is young, no ifs, ands, and buts about it. My dad died at 60 years old.
Wow.
After having a heart attack. And, I'll be 63 in July. So I'm blessed now. My dad said that when he reached 53, it was like an epiphany because he always wondered, would I live longer than my father? Right. God gave him 7 years, and I will tell you, man, there's something to that because I'm thinking, 60, Lord, if I can just get to 60, and take a deep breath, but I said, man, you can't live in fear. You got to do something to challenge yourself, to try to remain healthy. I don't eat the best, but I don't eat late. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And, I'm not a seafood guy. I'm not a fish guy. So, I'm red meat and that's what it is. But I eat it early. You know what I'm saying? I don't eat past 7 as a whole. You see me working out. I'm not trying to put on. I work out at least maybe 5 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week. And just do a little half-hour routine. It's just about getting that cardio going. And I do my physicals every single year since 1987. And I do all of my colonoscopies. I'm doing a stress test. It'll be my 4th one because heart attacks run in my family. So I'm trying to check on that and make sure I got a baseline with that. But no, I'm trying to do what I can, Travis, to make sure that Travell, to make sure that I give myself a chance to have a quality life. You hear what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And when you see me doing all of this, I'll say this and turn it back over to you. I started pastoring at 37.
Okay.
My dad at 26. Our founder at 25. Founder pastored 35 years. My dad 34 years. So both of them kind of left out. One retired at 59 and 9 months. My dad died at 60 and a half. So I'm not waiting to try to get 34 years in and then figure out what I'm going to do. Hey, my wife is a married Kay. We take these fabulous trips all over the world every single year. So I'm learning to retire while I'm working, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm
even traveling, you find a gym in the hotel where you're traveling. Like you're really dedicated to working out.
One of my greatest compliments was one of the young men in our convention when it was here in Detroit. As a matter of fact, it was our 101st convention, I think. No, our 99th convention in 2014. And every night after service, and because we were in a ballroom there at the Renaissance Center, we had to do double services because we couldn't get Cobo Hall. I think it was 2016. It's because we couldn't get Cobo Hall or what have you. So we had to do it right there at the hotel. So man, we were having like a service from 7 to 8:45, and then from 9 o'clock to like 10:45. You know what I'm saying? And man, I was working out every single night and had to be with the bishops early in the morning. Like 8 a.m. And it wasn't but me and this kid up there. And I didn't know that was one of my good friends, from years, who grew up in Chicago as well. And he said, Bishop, man, I got so much respect for you, man. He said, my son said, man, Bishop be with the bishops 8 o'clock in the morning, all day at banquets and food functions, and then doing 2 services at night.
Right.
And he and I are the only people up in there that go in workout room at 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. And he started the day all over again, man. So, I'm committed to working out. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. Because, again, I'm trying to get myself a quality of life. I'm not just trying to live past my grandfather and my dad, which I have, but I'm trying to have quality of life. Right. And I'm trying to enjoy life while I work. Wow. Because, again, I got started late. I don't know. I'm 25 years in. I don't know if I'll pass another 10 years. I don't know. But anyhow, I want to make sure that I enjoy life while I'm working and not just burn out working and then figure out what to do.
I even applaud you because didn't I see a post where you missed a Sunday for a golf tournament?
Listen. A quick story, and this is going to bless some preachers, and this is just going to bless anybody, who's a workaholic. And my dad's from Chicago, my mother's from Tennessee, from the farm, Huntington, Tennessee. So, my mom, we never had an alarm clock, we had roosters, you know what I'm saying? When they crowed, that's when you got up, whether it was still dark or whether it was light. When that rooster crowed, she said, that was our alarm clock. So my mother, man, you can't lay in the bed. I don't care if it's summer recess, you can't lay around. Mom, school is out. I had to go to school. But you can't lay in the bed, So she taught us a work ethic. She taught us how to get up, get off that couch. You got to do something around here. Don't let me find something to do. So you had to get busy doing something. So I said all that to say, when I think about where I am and the videos that I post and the kind of life that I live and all those things that I try to get in, to give myself a shot, to give myself a chance, to make sure that I'm doing what I should do. I have a saying all the time. God's not going to do for you what you can do for yourself.
So true.
Why should God do what I can do? Lord, help me to know what I'm supposed to do and let me do that. Because this isn't praying for God to do something, and that's what I'm supposed to do. So I said, God might open the door for you to be employed. He's not going to work for you and punch the clock. You got to get up and go to work. You know what I'm saying? Well, God gave me that job. They can't fire you. Yeah, they can fire you. So that's how I try to live. And that's I just try to give myself a chance at life.
So have you learned when you're overwhelmed or out of sync, when you maybe need to just take a time out to recalibrate? Have you learned yourself to know?
I have learned that in probably these last 3 years of pastoring. Okay. When you see your father leave and you're 37 and he's 60, he's a big figure, he's this big influential, he casts this massive shadow, and he accomplished so much that you say, okay, I don't know whether he really got cheated because he accomplished more than a lot of people.
Right.
But then you realize 60 is real young,
yes,
and I'm thinking, well, his father was 53, my grandfather. So he got 60, and I'm trying to figure that, did God really cheat us? Am I supposed to be mad? But now I'm realizing, hey, I said a lot of things when my dad died. Man, listen, I'm not going to do all this stuff my dad did. Right. I'm not. The next thing I'm a bishop 3 years later, and somebody saying, man, I'm going to nominate you for assistant presiding bishop, and then I'm one of the youngest presiding bishops, and I do 8 years. They added from 3 year to 4 year terms. I'm like, I was just really trying to kill a person up here. I'm doing 6 years. No, we're changing it to 4 year terms. So I'm the first one 4 year terms, and I was young enough to travel the world. So I've traveled all over to the South Pacific, to Africa, you name it. Places people say, man, we ain't never had residing bishop. And I'm out there dancing with them in Africa. I'm playing a tambourine with the band, and that this guy got all the energy in the world. But no, my mother used to say, she would say to me in the first 5 years of passing, she's like, you said you weren't going to do all your dad, and she said, you were worse than your father. So I think, certainly I don't want anybody to die and all of that. But I think for a lot of us, God gave this season of COVID for us to shut us down. You know what I'm saying? And to let us regroup and to replenish ourselves. But no, and then, I'm listening to some older people. Bishop, you going to play in a tournament this weekend? Well, no, man, I've never played in that tournament. Bishop, you've been the club member for 2004. You never... No, because it rolls over on Sundays. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I got to go to church.
Right.
He said, Bishop, you mean to tell me with all those people in that church, they can't do without you for one Sunday?
Right.
For a few hours?
Right.
And man, as the scripture said, and he thought on those things. And when I thought on those things, I said, you know what? I ain't making no excuse. I'm not talking about he out of town, he's sick. He playing golf today, okay? And after 22 years of pastoring, if he can't go play golf in the city,
right,
while church is going on, when y'all do everything y'all want to do, and come and tell it that used to be Saints wouldn't tell it. I think pastor, my son's in AAU. I'll be traveling all summer long. I'll see you in September. I'm like, I said, oh my, well, praise the Lord.
Right.
So if I can't take a Sunday, a couple Sundays, I took one, and that first one I took 2 years ago, I won the daggone tournament. I said, well, God must not be that upset with me. I brought my trophy back. I brought that trophy back. I said, God was pleased. As a matter of fact, he was so pleased. There's another big one 2 months from now. I'll be going that Sunday too. So I've learned, man. Listen, I've learned, man. You don't get but what you get in life,
right?
And either you get to enjoy some things or you don't. And sometimes man, I said I don't want to get to heaven, and God said I ain't asked you to do all that.
Wow,
that's what you chose to do. We say this, and I'll turn it back to you. We said, well, the Lord won't put no more on you than you're able to bear.
Right.
I said that's true, and that's scripture. There's no temptation, anything overtaking us as such as is common. But with every temptation, he's given us the strength and the anointing to bear it. Wow. And a way of escape through it, right?
Yes, sir.
But it doesn't say anything about the stuff you put on yourself.
Lord Jesus.
So I'm not sure that some of the stuff I got on me, I'm looking for God to take it off, but he didn't put it on us. And he didn't call us to that. So now we got to figure out a way to get that thing off of us, because some things we invited, and he won't give you any more than you can bear. But everything we're dealing with, he didn't necessarily give it to us. Some of that stuff we went and got ourselves.
Wow. I love that. I love that wisdom. You mentioned the pandemic and vaccines and staying healthy. I noticed you've been a leader you showed when you got your vaccinations. You've had, first was a testing site.
Right.
Vaccination site. Why is that important for the church or the faith community, or even as a pastor, to be a role model in this effort?
I felt that I had to be very public with mine, because when we closed that sanctuary, the 22nd of March, 2020, that was our final service. And those last 2 Sundays, the 15th and the 22nd, those were starting restrictions now on how many people could be inside. I think it went to 250 for us here in Michigan. And I left the congregation on that Sunday. I said, I don't know where we're going or what's going to happen. I said, we'll have to play it by ear. I said, I'm not going to promise you won't get this a virus, because I don't know enough about it.
Right.
I said, I'm promising you this. You're not going to get it from me, because I'm not going to be out here reckless. I'm not going to be out here being negligent. I'm going to try to lead by example. So when the testing came, I thought I would do mine publicly. The 2 swabs in the nostril with the Q-tip, and it was done. And I showed that. I said, come on, y'all. Bishop, that thing go way up your nose. I look at my church, man, way up my nose. And that thing, they tell me it hurts. And I said, girl, you got 15 tattoos. Give me a break. You done had somebody with a needle drawing your boo or bullet on your arm, and you ain't even winning now. Are you freaking kidding me? I didn't say freaking, right? Yeah. Are you freaking kidding me? I said, go get tested. We got to make sure that we know where we are.
Right.
With anything. And sometimes, we're not sometimes as anointed as the old saints. Mm-hmm. And many of them operated out of ignorance. I'm not calling them stupid, but I'm just saying many of them did not have education. Many of them were not learned as we are and have been able to. Many of them couldn't go to school like we did. They worked farms, sharecroppers, and things of that nature. So we cannot have the excuse that they had. Right. Many of them didn't believe in schooling or going to the doctor. Work came first, and they grew up with a certain mentality because they didn't have the freedoms that we have. Right. So I thought I needed to be very public in showing people. And listen, not only did I get vaccinated because I'm on the board of Detroit Medical Center, which oversees 17 hospitals, and I'm the one that had to go to the board and say, you all are vaccinating all the employees. We're not paid employees, but we're trustees of all of these health facilities. Oh, Bishop, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Well, you all tell me where the cafeteria at Harper Hospital any day this week. I said, I'm there. And, that second week in January, I got vaccinated. February 1st, I got my second vaccination, Pfizer. Didn't have any problems, nothing but a sore arm, like when I get a flu shot. That was it for like half a day. And thank God, man, I've been blessed. And I still wear masks. Okay. I still, every 4th Saturday here at our church, get tested. Bishop, why are you doing all that? You already vaccinated. Right. I'm just trying to show you that while they don't know everything, you need to do what you can do until they know more.
Right. Right.
because they're learning as they go. I don't have a problem with them coming out saying different things because this is a novel virus. And I found out novel means you never seen this one before.
Right.
So you're not going to know until you see how it affects people, and you're learning through studies and all of that. So no, not only have I been vaccinated since February 1st, I still wear masks. I wear masks all the time when I'm out, when I'm in places, when I'm outdoors. I wear a mask. I get tested every fourth Saturday. I'm sure I'm not contracting the virus. I'm sure the vaccination is doing what it should do. I've had no problems at all, no challenges, no side effects or anything. But I just feel like that I should lead by example to knock down some of those myths.
Right. Right. I appreciate and I applaud you for that. So we just had Mother's Day. We have the big three Sundays, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day. Your service is still outdoors?
It's still outdoors. We will be outdoors probably. I think I told the congregation we'll be out there past fall. So I don't think we'll go through another winter outdoors. But I think we're going to be there at least maybe till Thanksgiving-ish, somewhere around in there, and maybe go in the sanctuary in December. I'm guessing, at least here in Michigan, most everybody will have received a vaccination, you know what I'm saying? And we'll be somewhere around herd immunity or what have you.
So is that the guiding principle that you've been kind of looking at, is the numbers and herd immunity to make that?
I am following the science and the medical experts, and thank God that we have medical physicians in our congregation, and I am listening to them. You know what I'm saying? And one of them is one of my associate pastors. I'm listening to them. I'm talking to them. This is not the place where the pastor talks to you.
Right.
This is the time when you talk to the pastor because you have the expertise, the discipline. God has called you to this lofty calling.
Right.
And I'm not here to say, I got the anointing. I hear what y'all say, but y'all don't know everything. I don't know anything about it. You know, at the end of the day, that's how I'm leading.
So was there a Sunday, maybe I misread, was there a Sunday where you all attempted to go back in?
We have gone in 5 times. We went out the first time we went out because we've been blessed to be on television.
Right.
I would go into the sanctuary with the praise team and a couple of musicians, and we would film services for television.
Okay.
And I would do them like 4 at a time, because this has blessed me to cut all those hour and 10 minute, and say amen and get that neighbor 5 high and run around 5 times. And I think a lot of our sermon is a lot of a lot of bells and whistles. When you get down to the word, you might see things a little differently. I think it's made me a better preacher. I think it's made me a better preacher.
After all these years?
After all these years. Listen, a lot of times, we feed off of people. We feed off of people, feed off that energy. Sometimes, man, we'll jump subjects because we hit something and everybody like that, so we stay there. And this, I can't get an amen. I don't know whether you're smiling. I don't know whether you went to the next page or to the next whatever you call it, YouTube. I don't know. So I got to keep this thing brief, keep it on point.
Right.
Make sure that it makes sense from beginning to the ending. Wow. Because I can't see whether you're smiling or whether you're sleeping or whether you done turn it off or whether you done gone in to make yourself a sandwich and you don't care what he's saying in there. You know what I'm saying? So I try to just make sure that I have a message, and that message flows from beginning to end. And that's why I say I think it's made me a better pastor. I think it's made me a better preacher. I think it's made me a better preacher.
So even along those lines, how do you feel that do you believe the church is stronger or weaker coming out of this pandemic?
We will see when we come out of it. We're not out of it yet. I think on those 5 occasions when I went inside, I always let the people know 8:30 in the morning because our service is at 10 o'clock. So I always let them know 8:30 in the morning. I make the call by 6. I make the call by 6:30 when I'm looking at the weather and all of that. And the only time we've gone in, it was absolutely snowing profusely. It was lightning and thundering out there, and I didn't want people outside, not even in their cars, with that kind of activity going on. Those 5 times because I had the deacons count everybody. I said, count everybody. I want to know how many people were in here, just so I would have that on record. I think we had the lowest crowd was maybe 251 people, and the highest was 374 people.
Okay.
And I think that was this past Easter. We went inside. It was 374 people. So when I'm outside, man, we're talking about 600-700 people, and because we have a 20-acre campus. So
right.
People are all over the place. And I don't call it a parking lot service. I call it outdoor campus service because, people are on the grass with their lawn chairs. They find their friends and they all get together. And some of the same stuff that happens inside is happening out there. One of the sisters told me, she said, Bishop, they're saving parking spaces for their friends, right? I said, no. She said, yeah, like they saving parking spaces. She said, when my daughter pulled in the park, the girl was standing in the midst of it right next to her car, saying, you can't park here. But this parking spot is reserved. I'm like, are you kidding me? She said, and she was on the phone talking to somebody, and they came in, and she turned from member in her car in the campus service to usher, directing the car in, to parking monitor, keep coming. She said her friend got in there, she got in her car. She said they talked back and forth. They didn't hear nothing you said. They was passing Christmas gifts back and forth through the windows. I said, don't tell me the Saints doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing out there. They doing the same shit. I got a kick out of it. I told the church, I told them, I understand y'all out here saving parking spaces like y'all be saving seats for your friends. I said, are you kidding me? I said, I guess some things never change. But listen, I love y'all to life. I thank God for you.
I love that. I love that. One of the things I applaud about you and have admired you so much is that your ministry is not limited to the church. You have always been a civic leader. Even tonight, you had a civic engagement. Why is it important, especially for apostolic pastors, to be engaged in civic leadership?
I will say that I talked to one of our bishops. I'm considered part of their family. I preached his son's funeral, who was my chief of staff when I was youth president of the PAW. I preached his service as well, the father, when he made his transition down in Mobile, Alabama. I asked him one time because I was working with SCLC, the Michigan chapter here, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. So I ran for office, county commissioner in 1986, lost that race by 90 votes. And I believe that ever since that day, God has settled me where I need to be. I need to be in politics.
Okay.
I need to be where I am now. And God closed that door. And I believe the only reason I lost that race, God had to close the door. I had the governors, Blanchard, Coleman Young, the mayor. I had the senators, everybody. I had a UAW backing me, man. And I had 2 Volvos. You hear what I'm saying? I had 2 foreign cars, and the UAW was backing me. I had every endorsement you can imagine. Congress, they all were endorsing me. And the only reason I lost that race, the Lord didn't want me there. And a former state rep, who his state rep district was in some of that county commissioner district. Okay. People say to me this day, man, he hadn't been incumbent. I said, he wasn't. He used to be a state rep. He was running for a county seat. But anyhow, God closed that door, and I have never looked back. So I've always been civically engaged. I asked Bishop Shaw down in Mobile. I said, Bishop, you in Birmingham, and then you took a church in Mobile. I said, what was it like back then? We just looking at the photos and we're looking at the videography of, that park and dogs and fire hoses. And the 16th Street Baptist Church and the bombing and all of that. And he said, son, if I could go back, he said, as apostolics, he said, we kind of left the marching to the Methodists and the Baptists and some of the Catholics and what have you. He said, if I could go back, he said, I would have got out in the street.
Okay.
He said, we prided ourselves in praying.
Right.
While those people prayed and then got up and went to do something. And he said, if I were to go back then, I probably would have been involved in all of our prayers and shut-ins we had, but I would have been out there marching because those people put it all on the line and they put their faith in action. And we're benefiting, from the courage that many of them had. So so here we are now, and my dad was always politically savvy, and Coleman Young, appointed him to the police commissioners as one of the 5 police commissioners. We had Governor Dukakis here in 1988, did a rally at our church for him when he was running against President Bush, I think it was, the first Bush. But anyhow, that's why I feel we have to engage.
Okay.
You know, I did the peaceful protest march. The governor wanted to be a part of it, so I welcomed her. The mayor wanted to be a part. I welcomed him, and some of the other politicians. Once they found out the governor and the mayor were with my march, and I was just doing a march with the preachers. You know what I'm saying? We had imams, we had rabbis, we had Pentecostals, the AM, you name it. Everybody was there, and I want to show that the church was not sitting on the sideline.
Right.
Because we were watching everybody else march, and you got all these kids, you got all these young people, you got all these just community people marching.
Right.
And here we got influential people in the community. I said, man, if we want to maintain the respect of these folk,
Right.
you know, we got to show that we ain't just in these comfortable sanctuaries, you know, and these comfortable church campuses, but we're going out there as well. And we need to show that these are peaceful protests. You know, we are not the mob.
Right.
We are not hoodlums. You know what I'm saying? We are people out crying for justice, you know, not crying tears, but shouting, crying out with a loud voice. No justice, no peace. Say these individuals' names. They were not people who can be discounted. They were not people who don't count. That was somebody's father, somebody's daughter, mother, sister, cousin. The list goes on and on. So I feel, and I still feel, and I felt, and I still feel that we have to engage because this new membership.
Right.
These folk are looking for somebody who ain't doing a lot of talking.
Right.
But who's doing some walking.
Wow. So seeing Senator Warnock as a pastor become senator, did that kind of make you think twice? And maybe I want to try it?
No, because I've been too blessed where I am.
Okay.
You know, and sometimes I think maybe you can bite off more than you can chew, and I don't ever want to say this very carefully. You know, when you accept some responsibilities, you have to accept everything that comes with it.
Right.
You know, and I'm not saying that all of that is illegal. It just, you know, sometimes it pushes you
Right.
to places where you might need to compromise.
Right.
You know, not that you're doing anything illegal, you know, or maybe not even unethical, but, you know, if you had your choice, you know, you wouldn't be siding over there and you wouldn't be, you know, manning something. So,
Right.
you know, I think I'm where I need to be, you know, but again, I want people to know that Bishop Ellis is not here just trying to live off the land.
Right.
He is here trying to make sure that when it's all said and done, he has some blood, sweat, and tears in the change that's taking place in a positive way for people who are at risk.
And I love what you just said, because that leads me to a question. One of the first times I think I witnessed your ministry was Rosa Parks' funeral. It was at your church. And I remember seeing the One Lord, One Faith, One Baptism. I'm looking at Jesse Jackson and Bill Clinton standing behind this. I said, this has to be an apostolic church. And these world leaders have been seeing you on the pulpit at Aretha Franklin's funeral, but you're on a first name basis with presidents and world leaders, President Obama and others. What is the role of the prophet in politics? I know you kind of touched on it before, but you mentioned, you know, sometimes having to, I guess, go along with some things that maybe will compromise. We saw a very divided electorate. You know, some said you can't be Christian and vote for Trump, and some said you can't be Christian and vote for Biden. How do you navigate this?
Well, at the end of the day, who I vote for has no indication of my Christianity.
Okay.
And we need to stop that foolishness, you know, because some folk will have you to believe that, well, you can't be a Christian if you make this decision.
Right.
And then after we hear that for so many years, you know, you support a guy and don't even as a priest call the king to task.
Mm-hmm.
What you know is ungodly, illegal, unethical. I mean, going out to hurt people, you know, could care less about the least of these. I mean, made fun of physically challenged people,
right.
You know, could care less about women. I mean, are you kidding me? You at least got to say something. I mean, the silence is deafening.
Right.
It's deafening. And let me say this. I was a part of, we were in a square with President Obama. I was called to a meeting, and this is when he put shared us his heart when it came to the same-sex marriage referendum. And he shared with us, he was very transparent. He said, listen, I'm not here to be a religious person. I got people putting their lives on the line for me. Secret Service people, that will take a bullet, that will step in front of me when danger comes. And, the law says that they can't love who they want to love and be in a covenant relationship. Mm-hmm. He said, and I'm struggling with this, right. Here's where I am. Here's who I'm married to. You know what I'm saying? So don't question my sexuality. Right. But I don't know that I have the right to deny others what they feel. Right. And at the end of the day, everybody's got to answer to God. So I'm not here to play God down here. And when we heard that, it was about maybe 20 of us, maybe 15 of us, five, and then it was him and his staff in the front, and the tables were in a square. And when we heard that, and I was sitting next to my friend Reverend Sharpton, and we looked at each other, I said, man, I hear him. I said, you know what? At the end of the day, why do I care who marries who? Right. At the end of the day they changed the law, I woke up, my wife was still there. I was still there. I had no desire to change up anything. Right. It didn't affect me at all. Now, we did make a statement that, Mr. President, this law cannot encoach our ability to practice our religion and hold to the tenets of what we feel this Bible is saying to us. Right. Now, everybody has different revelations and different ideologies and theologies and all that, but that's what freedom of religion is. Right. I get to practice this Bible, and you don't get to come in and coach that. So, once we got that word that, hey, listen, you don't have to engage in this. Nobody's being made to do anything. Right. We're just not going to discriminate against them. I said, hey, I ain't got no problem. Let's move on.
Because a lot of people see the public endorsement, but they don't know perhaps what you say to them to challenge them or to, give them advice in secret. And I think it's important to know that when you're in the room, you still represent the kingdom. You still represent the church, but you're not going to blast them over the pulpit. If you disagree, you handle that behind closed doors.
Absolutely. And the president is not running to be a presiding bishop. Right. He has, she has to, they have to care about every single person in humanity that is in that country that they are representing. They can't say, well, I'm not going to represent those folk. You have to represent those folk. We've already been there. Right. Hello, black folk. We've already been there where everybody gets representation except us. Right. Didn't feel too good. So what if somebody feels they're different in another way, or whatever the case is? Listen, as long as I'm not forced to do anything or to join in that, listen. And again, we used to use our pulpits, man, to slam things and listen, I'm done with that. And I don't think I've ever been engaged in that. My father said a long time ago, as much as I pay for radio broadcast, I'm not going to be advertising nothing but this church and Jesus. I'm not going to be over here talking about the man down the street at the church or what they doing across town. He said, man, these platforms cost too much money. And, listen, these airways now cost way too much money to get in those kind of fights. I'm here to try to make somebody feel better, to have a motivational, inspirational message. And at the end, tell you Jesus is the way.
How do you deal with, you hear the statement that the politicians only come around when it's election time? People know you pastor one of the largest churches in the country. You're presiding bishop, 2 million worldwide. How do you discern when someone just wants your access, influence, or platform versus they really have a message maybe to share with your congregation? Is there a way that you say, have you ever turned down someone and said, you're not welcome to speak here?
Well, let me say this. I see it from a whole different vantage point because I've been a candidate.
Okay.
All right. So I've had to go to churches. Now, I'm going to these churches based upon the relationship and wanting to share with your audience why since they are voters,
right,
why I think I'm a guy that they ought to give a look-see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not coming to join your church.
Right.
So if I had been elected, I'm not going to everybody's church all year long. I'm going to my church.
Right.
I want to know that you're a Christian and you're a believer and you have a pastor.
Right.
If you do, I'm not looking for you at my church. You ought to be at your own church. If you feel you got to come to me once a month, then I'm like,
okay.
I mean, I wouldn't be telling one of my members, and I have elected officials in my church: the city clerk, the city county, the city clerk, the Wayne County prosecutor. At one time, I had the head of the FBI. I had the head of counterterrorism. The third in command at the Coast Guard. My cousin right now is the sheriff. Judges galore.
Right.
I expect them to be a great simple.
Right.
You can't travel for 4 years to church. You do that during campaigning season. That's why they call it I'm campaigning. When it's over with, thank you.
Right.
You can call me if you need me, but I'm going to my church.
That makes sense.
So I mean, there are too many churches for us to even be making that statement. Right. They don't come around election time.
Right.
Because it's election time.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Now, take it from a guy who ran for office.
Right.
I wouldn't have gone to churches like I did from Mother's Day in 1986 all the way through the first Sunday in August.
Right.
If people had been at them block club meetings, I'm in the basement of a church at a block club meeting that had probably 2,000 houses, and there's 8 people down there. Listen, man, I'm not going to another block club. I'm going to the church in that community on Sunday because that's when they are. If the pastor will allow me just to wave.
Right.
And say, that's Bishop Ellis' son. Y'all know he come from good stock. Blah, blah. Yeah. And I was already up on that thing, man. I had me like 5,000 fans made up with my picture on the front, all the information on the back. So all summer long, in them hot churches, man, they was fanning. Oh, he's an accountant. No, he graduated from Wayne State. Oh, he's a preacher, like his daddy. Oh, and I said, listen, them people ain't gonna remember everything I'm saying. Let me wave. Let me leave you some fans. The Mortician's been doing it forever. Okay. So no, I don't get offended. Okay. I mean, come on by. I'm gonna give you some space. If I can't give you some space, I'm gonna say something to control the time, and then tell everybody, if you want to see them out in the lobby, they might be here. Or sometimes I let them off the hook. I say, listen, I was trying to hit 5 churches a Sunday when I was campaigning. So I'm sure you got some stuff lined up, and nobody's gonna hold on to their service. Wait for somebody to get there. So, hey, you been in here, you're not a member here. So if you want to stay in worship, Bishop, I just want to stay in worship and leave you an offering, that's fine. But listen, I'm good. I'll put you up and I will excuse you and let the people know that we need to be respectful because we want to see you in that office.
Right.
We feel you are the person who has our heart, and who is sensitive to our concerns. And we want you to get out. I don't want you to be at my church every Sunday. Get to that one, get to that one, get to that. So yeah, I that's my thought about it.
I love that because people just don't understand. They don't see the behind the scenes. You get criticized, and people just don't understand. The other thing we were talking about criticism. You mentioned being ecumenical and different faith and different religions. And one of the things, if I recall, you were criticized even publicly by leaders, even in your own organization, because of your attempts to be more ecumenical. Why is it being ecumenical important? And is it possible to be unapologetically apostolic and be ecumenical at the same time?
I shut all that down in terms of it coming at me by just taking it to a whole nother level. Or as some might say, doubling down. I said, I'm not ecumenical. Yes, you are. I said, no, I'm interfaith. Mm-hmm. Y'all just talking about Christians. I said, man, I got friends who are imams. Mm-hmm. I got friends who are rabbis. Mm-hmm. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Right. So you all don't really understand who I am. If you call me ecumenical, that's just different Christian denominations. Right. I go to the mom's place and I speak the Arabic. You know what I'm saying? Ana Bishop Ellis, Ana Atalam Arabi, Shawaya Madrasa Ferndale. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh Bishop, you speak Arabic. I'm like, a little bit.
Yes,
You know, I try to befriend people.
Okay.
I try. You don't know who God is going to use to bless you.
Right.
You don't. Man, Abraham traveled to more countries.
Wow.
That had nothing to do with Jehovah God in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
That blessed him and overwhelmed him and became the majority of the wealth that he had.
Wow.
I suppose all them places he went, he told them, I don't want nothing from y'all. Y'all get all that sinful stuff. I don't want none of that. Everywhere he went, he left with stuff.
Uh-huh.
People just favoring him and giving him stuff and blessing him with stuff. I have learned to practice being friends.
Okay.
And not finding a reason to be adversarial with somebody.
I love that message. You mentioned your father quite a bit. A legendary leader. He was the assistant presiding bishop, pastor of Greater Grace. What was it like growing up in such a prominent apostolic family?
I don't know that we thought we were, there were some big names in the PAW, McMurray, Golder, Bishop Carl Smith, Bishop Frank Bowden, Bishop David Schultz. The list goes on and on and on. So I don't know that we saw ourselves there. Right. My dad had started growing a church, and he made bishop kind of late in terms of if you look at a person's work.
Okay.
But once he got there, it just rolled. You know what I'm saying? And it just went like lightning speed. So I've always thought that we were a good family,
right?
That always tried to help people.
Okay.
Because while there were 7 kids, our house always had, beside my mom and dad, it always had at least 9 or 10.
Okay.
So people lived with us long before we knew what foster care was.
Right.
Parents were probably foster care. They just weren't getting a check and there just was no paperwork, you know what I'm saying? But there were always people in and out of our house. And my mom always said to me that she believed that's why God blessed us so.
Okay.
Because we always opened doors. She said, a lot of people will help you, but they won't take you in.
Mm-hmm.
She said, and we have been blessed to take people in and not just to feed them or to clothe them, but to help change their life.
Wow.
And to put them in a different direction or to cut the light on in the midst of somebody's darkness. So I always thought that we were just a fun family.
Okay.
And that's who my dad was. Man, we would play Scrabble, we would cheat, we would argue. Before you had the games where the tiles fit inside the little square, the old games where they just laid out there and you had to keep straightening them up. Man, if I knew I wasn't gonna win, man, I go to the bathroom, come back, bump the table, everything just went all awry. You do that on purpose. No, I swear. Let's start all over again. I mean, man, we had fun as a family. My dad was a jokester, man, and that's who we were. We were not trying to be this big spiritual something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, they have prayer every Saturday, anointing falls in that. Man, Saturday we were playing. We were getting haircuts and going to the park. I mean, I'm not saying we didn't have those 2-week revivals and all that. Yeah, you did back in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? And the 60s, but. My dad allowed us to have fun. He allowed us to bowl. He allowed us to skate. Women wearing pants with no problem. He didn't allow it in the church, but he didn't. So we had. I consider us to be a functional, sanctified family. Because when I hear some other of my friends talk about, it was kind of strict, man. It was kind. It was. I had one friend of mine say, "Man, on my honeymoon, I didn't know what to do." And I was looking like, man, I know you got married at 19, but man, I didn't know. Listen, we never had a conversation about nothing in that house.
Okay.
Concerning life. You know what I'm saying? That was just taboo. That was off the cuff. And that he said, man, I ain't never seen my dad kiss my mother. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure they did, but they ain't never done it in front of us. I said, okay.
Wow.
Chuck, you don't even remember at Mumford, man. We didn't even have a TV when I was in high school. Wow. I'm like, wow. I would have never known. He said, man, I wasn't swimming, not because I had any kind of condition. My dad wouldn't allow us to wear no shorts. I'm like, man, I mean, this guy's telling he's pastoring now, and he's just having a conversation with me years later and just sharing some of his heart, about how he saw me in high school, and him, and he was from a different apostolic organization, but I was sitting there like, man, I wouldn't have known. I thought that was back in the 40s or the 50s, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Man, you can talk about the middle 70s, yeah.
So do you think, so many PKs grow up resentful of the church? They seem the good, the bad, the ugly. Do you think that the fact that your parents were balanced, that it helped you, even though you had to deal with the weaknesses and the flaws of people, you were able to navigate that and not be bitter, resentful towards the church?
I see that all the time. My mom was a very wise woman.
Okay.
My dad was gone a lot. I mean, my dad missed some of my graduations. My dad missed a lot of my baseball games in the Little League because he was preaching. Because when we came, he was 26 in 1962. That church was very small and had maybe 30-something members and, I don't know, some kids. Maybe that took it up to 55 or something like that. But again, they couldn't afford anything. He stayed at the YMCA, and that's where he stayed for 4 months. Until one of the saints took him in, and then he moved the 4 of us at that time with my mom.
Okay.
7 of us, but 4 of us were born in Chicago. He moved, got a 2-family flat, upper 2-family flat, and that's where we moved to. So my dad, he was a very humble man. Mm-hmm. He knew what it was not to have, and they taught us that everything we have is from the generosity of the saints.
Okay.
So I never got upset with my dad not being at a school program or something because he was going to preach, trying to receive an offering to bring back. And he was probably putting some of that in the church.
Right.
And then bringing the rest home. So my mom, she could have been bitter. And she could have said, your dad always gone. Mom, where dad? I don't know. He always gone. Y'all need to say something to him. She never got us in that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever they had, they never got us in that. All I know is my mom used to say, your dad is out, so you all can have something to eat. Your dad is out preaching so that you all can have some going back to school clothes. So you have some school supply. You can give something for Christmas. So man, we were like, when we going away next time? You know what I'm saying? So my mom, she could have talked about him not being there. She could have talked about him always being on the road. But she told us why he was on the road.
Okay.
And how that benefited us and how he had to do that. So I will say to you, we've never had an adversarial relationship with the saints. We saw Mother Crosby come with bags, from J.C. Penney's, from Montgomery Ward's. Y'all don't probably have those, whatever. But anyhow, those little mediocre department stores. She would come with a bag the week before Easter, so we could have Easter clothes because she wanted to pass us kids and look. So we saw the saints doing things for our parents, and so I'm like, man, my mother said, it's the reason we live in this house, is because of saints. They give. So I'm like, I ain't no problem with the saints. I'm speaking to all of them. And my mom said, if some pick on you, I'll never forget. She said, always compliment them. Mm-hmm. Go out your way to find them and to say something nice about them.
That's a much problem. When they go low, you go high.
Man, if that thing didn't work, Mother Johnson, how you doing today? I like that hat, Mother. Oh, you like this hat? I like that hat. Oh, here, take this quarter. Go to the candy counter and buy you. Mother Johnson, ain't no problem, Mother Johnson. And here's what my mother said. She said, everybody, I don't care who they are, like to hear something nice about themselves.
Wow.
She said, everybody likes to be complimented. And I said to myself, yeah, because if you don't like me, I said, I don't care. I don't like you either. You ugly too. that's not going to do anything. But if you don't like me, but I'm continuing to compliment you, man, I like them shoes, man. Man, where you get them shoes? Oh man, no, don't quit playing, man. I know them shoes. Oh man, you think so? Man, listen, them shoes, man. Doc, your feet slamming them shoes. You don't think they're gonna look for me every Sunday?
Right.
Not to dog me, but to hear me say something good about them, because my mother was right. Everybody likes to hear something good about themselves.
I've heard you talk about being a drummer in church. Did you aspire to be a preacher? Did you aspire to be a pastor?
I aspired to play baseball. I played baseball in high school. I played baseball in Little League, Senior League. I played baseball my first 2 years at Wayne State University. That's what I wanted to do. And I realized when I got to college, I wasn't, as good a baseball player as I thought, and maybe I was sitting the bench because, it wasn't that I was black. It wasn't that the coach had a problem with me. There was just somebody who played better than me. And that's when I started hearing the calling of God in my life, in college. And that's when I made that transition. When I made that transition, right around 81-ish, I started backing down from the drums. I got into a place where I was a studio musician for Savoy Records, which was James Cleveland's, which was the label that James Cleveland was made. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, which is Malaco now. And I gotten up there and very well respected, played on a lot of albums. And I've got some back on my shelf there. A lady found a couple of them and brought them to me. She said, Bishop, I got something I know you don't have. And I looked, I'm like, on the back of Charles Ellis percussion. I'm like, oh my God, these are keepsakes, Right. And I've got it right there on my shelf back there. But again, when I started getting into the word and the ministry, I really saw myself going there. I think I saw myself pastoring, probably here, succeeding my father at some point in time. But my dad was young, man, powerful. My dad was a man, you know what I'm saying? Right. So I was enjoying being number two, because I've always said, and I say this to all assistant pastors and young men who are under somebody, enjoy that time. It's like being home. You say, man, I'll be glad when I leave this house and I do what I want to do. Yeah, you can pay all the bills.
Right.
Yeah, you can be responsible for everything that go wrong. Right. And I tell people like this, I said, who got the best job in the world? The Vice President of the United States. He gets everything the president gets, and he don't get asked not one question.
Right. You don't take the hit.
Not one question. You done forgot who George Bush, the older ones, who is I had to look it up. Dan Quayle. Man, I don't even know how to spell Quayle. You know what I'm saying? That man served 4 years. He had nothing to do with the war, the Desert Storm, whatever it was back then. He didn't have to answer one question. He got a house. He got a motorcade. He got Secret Service. He got his own plane. And he got his money, his pension, and he get everything the president gets. Yeah. But he don't have that weight and that burden. So listen, I enjoy being able to be an influence in this ministry. But my dad, he had to handle the weight. He had to handle the weight. Period and point blank. And let me tell you, when you get here, you find out you have so much appreciation for those leaders because they make stuff look easy sometimes.
Right.
And when you get here, you find out, it's not so easy. It's not so easy at all. But I really learned, man, to just concentrate, stay focused on what God is doing in my life. With that Aretha Franklin funeral, when everybody came at me with that, where my hands was, whatever. Yeah. I never said nothing to nobody. I told the church that Sunday, I said, listen here, I went and played golf on Saturday. I'm back preaching on Sunday. I said, y'all get off of Facebook, let that alone.
Right.
You can't make something that is not.
Right.
All you do is keep it going. I ain't been accused by nobody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. People talking about what they thought they saw, and I'm the dirty guy. But I said, I ain't been accused by nobody.
Right.
I said, I got on my phone 4 expenses I keep from the Today Show. Bishop, you want to come on the Today Show and tell your side of the story? I'm like, I'm not coming on nothing.
Right.
I made an apology for whatever it looked like. And that's it.
Right.
And that's it. That's it. And I've learned, man, you got to stay focused because sometimes things are just thrown your way to take you off the beaten path. And it gets you distracted from what God is calling you to do. At the end of the day, man, if stuff ain't true, if it ain't real, it won't stick.
So I want to go back to a comment you made, and I appreciate you saying that. You talked about you worked closely with your father. You were close to your father. You saw much of what he experienced and dealt with, but you said it was still nothing like being in the seat till you got in the seat yourself. What was the biggest surprise when you finally sat in the seat? Like, wow, this is really what he was dealing with? I had no idea.
The biggest surprise was that Sunday comes every 7 days. And you got to have a brand new word because, see, I had like 10 good sermons, and I would travel the country for 5 years. You know what I'm saying? And take the note of what I preach where. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And I said, man, is it Sunday again? Wow. And I remember one day, and I tell this publicly, and I put it in one of my sermons on television. I just got overwhelmed and thought, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. And it might have been maybe 5-6 months down the road. It might have been a year down the road. And because I'm an accountant, I started adding up. My dad pastored 34 years, 34 times, 52 weeks, times 2 services, then some other services here, there, and there. I think it came up to something ridiculous, like 14,000 sermons or something like that. I'm like, I ain't got no 14,000 sermons, man. And man, I just started sweating, man. And this is a Saturday night when I'm trying to get a message together, 2 messages together for 7:30 and 11 o'clock the next day. And man, I started sweating. I'm like, man, I can't do this, man. I don't even know that much. I don't even have that. And if I tell it, man, I'm telling the truth. And I know people say all the time, man, God spoke to me. God said to me, listen, I don't claim to be super spiritual like that, but I'm telling you, there came a presence over me to calm me down. And I heard clearly, just get a message for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I teach that to people all the time. I said, sometimes you about to commit suicide about something 5 years from now. Right. Jesus says, give us this day our daily bread. Wow. Well, man, you got to eat tomorrow. Just give me this day.
That's it.
My daily bread. And then days turn into weeks. Mm-hmm. Weeks turn into months. Months turn into quarters. Quarters turn into years. Years turn into decades. And you look up and you've been pastoring 25 years. Wow. And all is well.
So did you know you were going to be his successor? Were there ever conversations? You saw your father grow a church from 30 to at his peak, several thousand members, packed. You were on all cylinders. And from what I understand, he passed away unexpected. But were there conversations that said, son, if anything happens to me, this is yours? Did you have those conversations?
No. I hear that he had those conversations with some of his friends.
Okay.
Bishop Abney told me a lot of what my dad said. My dad said a lot to other people. He didn't say it to me.
Okay.
He said, yeah, man, your dad said, man, Chuck will handle this. Matter of fact, when we bought the property that we're on now in 1987, we might have started the process in 87 and then bought it in 88, one or the other. But anyhow, my dad died in 96 and we ended up, church exploded again in membership and growth. And we ended up building and moving in here in 2002. And Bishop Abney said, yeah, your dad said, I asked him, I said, Dave, what you doing buying that property, man? You get ready to do something? He said, no, man, that's for Chucky and them. Chucky and them will take that down the road if they need it, whatever. I just want to make sure they have some land if they need to do something.
Right.
So he was saying a lot of things. He wasn't saying it to me. But probably the greatest encouragement that I got when I got to Arkansas on that Tuesday morning, my dad died at our bishop's conference. He had gone Sunday night to install my uncle in Chicago. And then he left from Chicago Sunday night to Little Rock. The meeting began Wednesday. So he was there Sunday night and resting Monday, Tuesday. And then the bishop's conference would start Wednesday. I was supposed to go Monday morning because I was on Enon Bible College board, our school. For whatever reason, I found out the meeting wasn't until Tuesday. So I said, well, I'll stay here and get some work done and then go Tuesday morning instead of Monday morning. Well, he had problems preaching that Sunday morning at church. I mean, really gasping for air, like he was out of wind, like his breath was being taken away. So much so until he had to stop preaching. And he asked everybody to pray for him. And of course, the church went crazy then because something's wrong with Bishop. I talked to him that Monday night. I need you to bring something. I left my cross and I left my. I mean, it sounded horrible. So I said, okay, I got it. I'll go across the street because our office was in the across the street in our office building. So I said, okay, I'll go to your office and get all that. So anything else you need to bring? So I said, put my on the phone. So put on. I said, he sounds horrible. She said, yeah, he need to go to the hospital. He told me he's all right. I said, don't worry about it. When I get there tomorrow morning, he going to the hospital tomorrow morning. You know, we're gonna find out what's going on. And I called Bishop Horace Smith, and who was the presiding bishop before me. He was a pastor at that time, wasn't a bishop. He was pastor in Chicago.
Right.
And I asked him, I said, man, I need you to go check on my dad. He said, I went over there, looked at him, but I didn't have my stuff. He said, I'm going to go to the medical university and get some stuff and then check him out in the morning. I said, okay, I get in there at 9:30. By the time I get there, they already take him out the hotel. He had a heart attack, and they take him to University of Arkansas Hospital. So by the time I get there, I'm checking in Bishop Ellis. I need to know where his room is. He's my dad, blah, 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 blah. So the guy went and got the manager. Manager came and said, your dad had a heart attack this morning. And they just took him to the hospital. So by that time, some of the bishops in the restaurant, they see me at the front desk. They come get me. Let's go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. He going to be all right. Don't worry about it. I get there. My mom is checking him in. She's still at the giving them information, Blue Cross card and all of that. So they must have just gotten there maybe a half hour before, whatever. So they say Bishop Horace Smith is back there with him. He's a medical doctor and a pastor, so he has some access. So I go back to where he is, and he says, he comes out the room. He said, "Oh, you here?" He said, "Okay, I'll go talk to your dad and let him know you're here." So he went in. He talked to my dad, and he came back. He said, "Okay." He said, "I talked to your dad. Your dad." I told him Chuck. I said, "Chuck is here." He said, "Good. Chuck knows what to do." He said, "We'll be able to see him in a minute." So we went in, and we saw him. And my dad, man, when I looked at him, he looked at me. They had oxygen on him and all that, man. He just started gasping. I mean, just like, and they pushed us out of the room. Wow. And so y'all got to get out. They pulled the curtain around, and we were out there, man. And Bishop Horace Smith went back. He said, "I'm a medical doctor." And they let him in. He said, he came back out. He said, "Man, let's pray. Let's pray." I said, "Pray, man. You said he's back there, giving the nurses a hard time. My dad, just let me go back, sleep this thing off. I can sleep this off, whatever." And that was it, man. I was watching people running out of that room, and they just had a look on their face like they don't know what's going on. This thing is out of control. And that was it, man. 45 minutes later, man, they said, "We don't know what happened. We just lost him." I mean, he just, the bottom fell out.
So was that Chuck knows what to do? Was that him saying, "You got it"?
I live by that. I live by that. I live by that. And it's amazing because so many people call on me and they count on me in church transitions, in family crisis. I'm talking about when pastors die and family die. I'm getting called, son, I need you to get down here now. And I'm gonna have everybody in the living room. And I need you to tell them, and I need you. And it's almost like God has put a mantle on me that my father had, because people look to him to have answers and to make things right and to bring people together and to reconcile them. And I try to make sure that when it's all said and done, nobody's ever going to say that I threw grenades in or I threw rocks in and I pitted sides against them. And, I would hope that, man, if they had done what Bishop had told them to do, they would have came through that thing. You know what I'm saying? And I hope that that's my legacy. That, man, if you get in trouble, if you get in a pinch, call that guy.
How are you able to heal and grieve? You lost your father, you lost your pastor, and now you got all the eyes of the world. All these members looking at you, family members look. How are you able to navigate that moment? Because did you have time to grieve? Did you have time to? You almost had to all right, let's roll, right? I mean, was there a moment?
That's a great question, and the only way I can answer it, because my dad was everything to me, man. No offense, but I mean, if I talk about my dad now, if I talk about it for any length of time, my eyes will start watering, and I'm not embarrassed by it. It's I wear it proudly because my dad was a great dad. I mean, matter of fact, I see my dad Joe say, "Y'all Negroes better be crying. Y'all better be crying 30 years later. I took care of y'all. I set you all up. The funeral home, church, the Christian schools, blah 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 blah." So probably my dad would say, "Them Negroes better be crying." I mean, if they old, 75 years old, man, you still crying about your dad 57 years ago? And my dad said, he ought to be crying. Okay,
right.
I was a great dad. He was, man. No ifs, ands, buts about it. I don't think I've grieved. I don't think I have because, I'll never forget. And I just talked about this with a friend of mine, close friend of mine, Bishop Donald Golder. And I told him, I said, man, my mom, I'll never forget my mom telling me that Tuesday night on that plane, man. She said, they said, we're about to land, erect your chairs, put your tray tables up, all that kind of stuff, because, we're making our descent. And my mom said, she said, if you gotta cry, whatever, go to the bathroom. You gotta get it out now, because when we land, we don't know. Back then, people could come to the gate, you know what I'm saying, greet you and all that kind of stuff. And she said, when we land, we don't know what we're gonna face, but we got to be strong. You know what I'm saying? Because if we fall apart, everybody will fall apart.
Right.
And all I was hearing was, man, everybody just flooded the church. People were sitting on top of their cars in the parking lot, man. People were just walking around like zombies. It was a big day. It was an election day, and our church was one of the big polls, like 3 precincts. So it was just, this man died. You know what I'm saying? They were voting on the new stadium, the Ellis family that owns the Tigers and the Red Wings hockey team. Mike Ellis was at the church, and he was there with the new mayor. Coleman Young, the old mayor, called in on the phone, to try to get Bishop Ellis to get his congregation with others, to support using some tax dollars for the new stadium to build the baseball stadium. And that Tuesday was it. So it was just, the church was a buzz, you know what I'm saying? And everybody around, and they told me, man, it was just like Grand Central Station, just people voting, people find out Bishop Ellis died. He's not across the street. No, he's in a Little Rock. I mean, it was just, I think God got my father out of the city to die.
Wow.
Man, if he had died at that hospital, man, ain't no way in the world they would tell that hospital apart. Ain't no way you could tell him, you can't come up here. You don't get out of my way.
Right.
So it would have been bedlam.
Did you have a vision for the church? Was it like, hey, when I get my turn, this is what I want to do? Had you even had a chance to had you even thought like that?
A friend of mine, Bishop Mark Talbot in Kansas City, he told me about a conference, Tommy Barnett, Assembly of God, First Assembly in Phoenix, Arizona. And he said, man, this guy is doing some incredible stuff, man. When you talk about outreach ministry, man, this dude is doing phenomenal stuff, man. So, he's been trying to get me to come to the conference, but it wasn't time for me to go because I wasn't over the house.
Okay. So
I become the pastor in 96. His conference is always in February. So 97, I went. And I took about 10 of my leaders. Mm-hmm. And what we saw was just to a whole nother level of outreach. I mean, I saw him do an illustrated sermon with Noah's Ark. When I tell you I saw an elephant walk across his pulpit, I'm not talking paper mache. I'm talking about a real elephant, And we used to sit up in the balcony. There's 5,000 seaters there.
So is that where you got the idea to put the Cadillacs in the pulpit?
Oh, man. When I tell you, I saw motorcycles drive down the aisles, up a ramp onto the pulpit. I'm like, okay, we've always said this is God's house, and this is, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I said, this man sees this place as a place where the message goes forth, and we can use all kinds of tools, resources, live props, animal props, pyrotechs, whatever, to get the message across. That's when the gates flew wide open.
Okay.
That was in 98, not 97, 98.
Okay.
When I got back, I said, okay, y'all, you know what we do on Good Friday, right? We do feet wash and then we do communion. I said, we're not going to do that this year. I'm doing an illustrated sermon to hell and back. And man, that Good Friday night, I was sweating, man. I'm like, man, we've been doing feet washing communion forever and a day. And most folk ain't coming to a communion because they ain't trying to wash nobody's feet anyway.
Right.
And I'm about to cancel that in place of a play. I'm calling it illustrated sermon, but they're going to that's a play.
Right.
He had a play on Good Friday, and we didn't get to wash nobody's feet in that communion. So, man, I said, I'm going to baptize 100 people. I told him to get 100 robes. Man, I prayed that night before I went down to that. We got done with that illustration, man. We baptized 105 people on a Good Friday night. And I don't think too many people have questioned me without knowing I don't like that, but hey, man, what that dude does work. He doing stuff we ain't never seen before. And that takes nothing away from what my dad or anybody before he did. It's just God didn't call my dad home for me to be my dad.
Right.
Because I can't be a better him than him.
Right.
If you want him, you would have kept him here.
Right.
So, I've lived by him. My dad always said, every leader has to do what God is telling them to do, and has to have the courage, to be themselves. Because if you're going to fail being yourself. Don't fail trying to be somebody else.
So would you tell a young pastor, I'm enjoying, and I don't want to hold you, Bishop Ellis. I know our time is almost up, but would you advise a young pastor in that role? So you said he passed in 96. It took you about 2 years to finally say, you know what? I'm now the pastor. I'm going to do something God has told me to do, which is different from my father. Would you advise a young pastor who's a successor not to rush things, but to give it some time before you make those type of changes?
I would advise him to, first of all, seek God and make sure you're doing things, not just trying to be like somebody.
Okay.
Or trying to not be like somebody.
Okay.
You need to be who God has called you to be. What helped me with that illustrated sermon was taking those 10 leaders to that conference, because I never would have been able to tell them what I saw. They would have thought I was in Arizona drinking. You know what I'm saying? You saw a giraffe and an elephant walk across the pulpit. Who bringing an elephant in a pulpit? Are you kidding me?
Right.
First of all, you got to see his pulpit. His church is built for productions, and this church is built for productions. We built this one for production. That's why we can put cars on the stage. It's not wood. It's a cement stage. You got what I'm saying? There's a hydraulic lift. Right. You know what I'm saying? So we can drive cars in from the back, right across the hallway, and right into the back door of the pulpit. So it's built for production. When you see angels flying and all that, we have all that stuff built in because I'm going to be doing productions, illustrated sermons, a sermon and a play mixed together. Right. All right. So I would say to him, you first of all have to write the vision and make it plain.
Right.
So when I told them we're going back, I'm gonna do an illustrated sermon, and we're talking about souls. We're talking about a play. We're gonna baptize 100 people. Well, when they seen 500 people at the altar at this conference, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They know now what's possible.
Right.
If I just came back and I didn't have a core group who saw.
Right.
So I went to Tommy Barnett's conference for like 10 years, and I took like 10, 15 people every year.
Okay.
So people could see, here's where I think we can go, and we can urbanize our stuff. You got what I'm saying?
Right.
Some stuff you gotta put an adapter on it. You can't go to Europe and just plug in your computer.
Right.
It'll work, and there's power over there, but you got to get an adapter so you don't blow something up.
Right.
So I tell people at my conferences all the time, I said, you can take some of the stuff you learn here, you can take it fit right in, and you can roll. You know what I'm saying? And you take my name off the paper, put yours on, and move on down the road. I said, some things you might have to put an adapter on because you're going to short wire something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to do it just like I did it. And some things you might not be able to use at all, But I would say that, I don't think you ought to do things just to be doing things, Okay. I mean, why are you taking somebody's parking space? Somebody need to park there right now. You know what I'm saying? Why are you taking the picture down? A picture needs to come down right now. I mean, my thing is, if you get to doing something, then most folk will look after your legacy.
Okay.
I put a whole history hall with Bishop Forbes and my dad. And 4 years later, some of the deacons said, Bishop, we need to do a history hall for you. I didn't put me one there. Somebody said, well, at least you could have done was remember those who came before you. I took care of them. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I'm trying to lead by example. And if you take care of somebody, then somebody will take care of you.
Wow. Because one of the things that amazes me about you is, as you said, everything was unexpected. Your father passed unexpected. There wasn't really conversations about succession planning, but yet his name was David, but you are truly a Solomon who built the temple, the sanctuary, and the housing complex and the outreach programs. And so I just marvel at how God used you. Yes, he bought the land for something down the road, but he used you to take the whole ministry to a next level. And then you have some churches where there was a succession plan. And they were trained and groomed, everybody knew, and things fell apart. So what do you think is the difference between successful and unsuccessful succession planning?
I think it also has a lot to do with the leader.
Okay.
A lot of people thought, and they would ask me to teach succession because I think greater grace in a lot of people's eyes became like a model for the transition and the passing of the mantle, because people tell me, man, it seems so effortless. We saw your dad on TV, and then we knew he died. We saw him on TV for some more months, and then we started seeing you on TV. And the church seemed to grow, and people seemed to be flocking, and blah, blah. And then you all were building another church, and blah, 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 blah. Joe Holstein and I are very good friends, and I'm invited to all of his conferences. And he always brings me up on stage to talk about the transition because it reminds him of he and his dad, coming after a monumental figure. They're like, man, what is this kid going to do? And my dad died in 96. His dad died in 99. And we had that conversation every time we get together. And most all the time during his pastor's conference, he'll bring me and my wife up on the stage and just have us share our story, because he said Bishop's story kind of models mine, parallels mine. And I will tell you that, when I tell people, well, nothing was written about me pastoring. I was the first assistant pastor. We had a second assistant pastor. I said nothing was written, or there was no paperwork that said, blah, 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 blah. And people said, are you kidding me? And your dad died just like that, and Civil War didn't break out? I said, well, there are people that have started their own churches out of here. They've done it under my dad. So I don't get offended by anything like that. I said, but at the end of the day, I think that God's blessings were here. And I think it was because of the man my father was. He was not a man of chaos.
Okay.
Anybody know Bishop Ellis? Bishop Ellis said, y'all can't be fighting up in this house. No kind of way, no kind of how. And my dad would say, shame on you with everybody outside trying to tear your house up. Shame on you if you tear it up.
Wow.
And I think that's who he was. Everybody knew he was a man of order.
Okay.
A man of unity and harmony. So you didn't have a lot of loud and factions and I'm with this group, I'm with that group. I didn't see that. There have been people who started churches and started churches out of here. My brother started the church, Right. I mean, everybody's not going to sit up under me, but you didn't see that mass exodus, and you didn't see that chaos. And man, well, they say they boycotting the vote. They say they took the vote off. They fighting over who can vote.
Right.
It didn't happen.
Was your brother in making that transition smooth like that too?
No, my mother was not involved in leadership of the church, not at all. My mother said, "Hey, listen here, I don't bother his church, and he don't bother this house." Hey, and they got along. My dad said, "I don't know nothing about no drapes, no blinds, no wood floor, or tiles, or I don't know about none of that. That's her house. She got whatever she want." And my mother said, "I don't bother that church. He's the pastor. He's the pastor. He got to answer to God. I don't have to answer to God about that house. So my mother was she was a board member. She sat on. No, she wasn't on the board. No, she put him. I put her on the board after he died. I put her on the board.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like mom said, he's the man.
If she had spoke, everybody would have listened.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know,
she didn't have to do that.
Right. But my mother was a very quiet person. She was a person. She's a person of dignity, and everybody know. You know, she's spiritual. My mother's not involved in mess.
Right.
You hear about preachers' wives, you know, getting stuff started. Hey, my mother. You know, my mother mind her business.
Well, these last questions I have for you. So you become pastor, and about 10 years later, you become presiding bishop.
About 13. Presiding bishop. Yeah, presiding bishop in 2004. Wow, 8 years, man.
So you become pastor, and then you become
2004. I became assistant presiding bishop.
Okay.
Yeah.
10 you became presiding. 2010.
2010 I became presiding bishop. So that's 14 years.
So
yeah.
You go from not being you're being an assistant pastor to presiding bishop within 14 years. And you're the youngest presiding bishop in the oldest apostolic organization in the world. How does that happen?
Oh.
Do we need to do a part 2, Bishop?
I mean, you know, when I'm looking around, Bishop J.E. Moore was a great friend to me, a great mentor to me. Bishop Blake was a great mentor to me. Apostle Sanders, Church of Our Lord, he was very kind to me. Bishop Huey Rogers, like an uncle. Bishop Lawrence Campbell, Bishop George Boone. You know, I'm the young guy over the oldest organization, you know, that most of them came out of a split from the PAW. They all respected me highly. But I'm going to tell you, I hope that everybody would agree. I love our seasoned people. You know what I'm saying? Bishop Ellis is not the one. You know, all of those that retired under me, we treated them, man. Bishop Ellis made them take I had one bishop that didn't want to retire until the next year, which I was going to be gone, 2019. But he said, I'm going to announce in 2018 because I like the way what you say on TV. So he said, I'm going to announce it, and I want you to do my plaque and do what you did, but it'll be effective the next year. But he said, I want you to say the stuff about me, whatever. And I would hope that all of them, when it's said and done, would say, he knows how to respect the seasoned people. You know, my dad taught me that, man. No, listen, I don't know more than them, no kind of way, no kind of how. And I've been put in a position as a leader in the PAW alone to have to make some tough decisions about some elderly, seasoned people that could have made it look like this young guy is trying to push some people off the cliff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I would think that I had to go into some dioceses, you know, and I had to handle some situations that made it look like I was, you know, belittling that leader there, you know, who might have been 80 something years old, you know, and probably should have retired, but was still holding on, but it was coming very friction with the pastors there because, you know, and I had to come in, and I even had some of my dad's friends, you know, on the board, you know, say, well, if you want me to, I'll go in there. And I said, no. My dad said, if you're a leader, you got to lead. So I can't, if I'm the presiding bishop, who's supposed to go down there and make things right and set things straight? So the presiding bishop, I said, well, that's who I am. I got to go do it. And I'm going to pray that God gives me the words and gives me the demeanor. And I will tell you, you know, I had to go in and be in some very sensitive cases. And I would hope that at the end of the day, those pastors would say, man, he handled that with wisdom. Because again, I love our season, man. Without them, there is no us, you know, no ifs, ands, buts about it.
Now, one of the great accomplishments I would say during your tenure was the consecration of the first female bishops in PAW. What was that process? How did you get those? Because PAW has always had women preachers, women pastors, unlike many other apostolic organizations, but there was a cap as to how far they could go. How were you able to lift or completely just eliminate that ceiling?
That was actually Bishop Horace Smith before me. He was presiding bishop from 2004 to 2010. I was his assistant for those 6 years. He wrote the Apostolic Manifesto, which talked about women in ministry, women in leadership. It talked about a lot of other things. And we had a very close vote, man. I mean, that vote, I think, was only 2 votes.
Okay.
2 votes, the yays and the nays, with maybe 50 some odd votes to allow women to be elevated to the position of bishop. That was in 2009 in Atlanta. It did not happen until 2015 here in Detroit. And we had that service at my church. We were trying to save money. Cobo Hall, it cost us a ton of money in 2014. And, you just got to be careful with those convention centers, because there's just so many ancillary costs. You know what I'm saying? They say, we're going to give you the convention center free. Ain't nothing free. Right. Absolutely. By the time you get done with the union fees for this and that and that and that and that, next thing you know, you're looking at a bill of $50,000 at the end. So I said, okay, we're going to stay in the ballroom. And that was 15. That's the year we did double services. Okay. 2 back-to-back services every night. And that televised night, presiding bishop's night, we call it official night. Right. That we had at my church. And we bussed everybody to my church. A lot of people had cars because people come to Detroit, a lot of them driving from everywhere. And we had that service at my church that was on the Word Network. That's when we had the first honorary, the first female bishop was an honorary bishop. Okay. And that was Bishop Aletha Cushenberry. And then in 2016, I believe, is when we brought 2 more. Bishop Mona Reed, who's out of our ministry. She's in Lansing. And Bishop Gwen Weeks, who is a daughter of one of the seasoned bishops that died not so long ago, Bishop Tom Weeks, and her brother is Bishop Thomas Wesley Weeks. That had praise power back in the day. Right. Who was youth president after Bishop Wagner.
So even though you still waited to make the decision, so did the temperature cool a little bit by the end?
2009, 2015, that's 6 years. Yeah. So we changed the law to allow them to be elevated in 2009. Right. We made the elevation honorary in 2015. Okay. Under my path. I'll tell you how I did that. And this is public, so everybody's going to hear now what went on. 2015 was our 100th convention, not our 100th year as a PAW. It was our 100th convention. And, you got to do something special for a 100th convention. And, man, we've been having conventions for 100 years. So what have you all accomplished in 100 years? You got some money now. You got finances together. Okay, that's together now. But what changes have you made in 100 years? So Dr. Cushenberry has served as general secretary, and she has served on our lay directors. Okay. And the officers, which is secretary assistant, treasurer assistant, and 5 lay directors. Those are the only other non-bishop seats on the executive board of the Pentecostals of the world. So you got bishops, then you have those 4 officers. Okay. You have 5 lay directors. So she has served as lay director, and she has served as the general secretary for 6 years, general secretary, and then for another 3 years, 6 years as lay director. So she's been 12 years up in that room on the board. Wow. So I say to some of the influential, and this gets to people who want to change things but know how to do it. Again, we made the rule in 2009. Nothing happened because it was still, that vote only went over by 2 votes. You know what I'm saying? So I go to some influential ones. I said, hey, man, you know what? We need to do something to say we've been here 100 years. Right. And we have really opened the door. And I said, Dr. Cushenberry, man, she's going out. There's no place else for her to go. You know what I'm saying? She's been a general secretary, and most every general secretary has been elevated to bishop. Okay. I said, and she served as lay director for 6 years. There's nowhere to go. Right. I said, now, how can this woman who's been in the room, most qualified, been voting on everything, has a work in Kansas, Topeka, Kansas. Okay. Has a senior citizen facility. Right. How in the world can it be she's a woman and she can't serve in this room as a bishop? So I said, here's what I want to do. I want to make her an honorary bishop. bishop. Let's make her an honorary bishop because she's up in age, and I think it was past the age of being made a bishop because I think we said 70. Yeah, and by that time she's past 70. I said we need to make her an honorary bishop, y'all. We need to do that. So I talked to some people who have presence in there, have had influence in there, and they said, "Man, I like that idea." I said, "I'm gonna bring the motion.
Okay,
let's second it and let's move this thing, and we're gonna end this 100th convention with a female bishop, even though it's honorary."
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we did it. And what I did was I threw a man in there as well. I said, "Now, Stephanie Bishop Raymond Lloyd, I think he might be the only general secretary, and they know I know the history. He might be the only general secretary in Springfield, Ohio, that never made bishop."
Yes.
I said, "Every general secretary makes bishop.
Right.
Unless you're a woman, you got what I'm saying?"
Right.
I said, and I don't know what all the reasons were, and that's John Legend's grandfather. John Legend's mother is a Lloyd. So I said, I don't know what all went on, who's mad, or who had something against, whatever, but there got to be a reason why that man didn't make general secretary. Right. Every general secretary has been made bishop. Right. So I said, I want to make him a bishop posthumously.
Okay.
And they said, man, you come up with some great ideas. I said, let's do two. I said, I'm not taking one without the other. I told him, I said, I'm not taking one without the other. I said, we gonna make the Lloyd family and Bethel in Springfield, Ohio. We're gonna make them right. And they're gonna be able to say our pastor was a bishop in the Pentecostal, not a Seventh-day Bishop. He was a bishop in the Pentecostal because he served as general secretary those terms. And we're gonna make this woman in this 100 convention. I said, and I'm not taking one without the other. I said, both of them got to go through. And both of them went through, man, and that was 2015.
So was the vote better this time?
Oh, that vote went through. I don't think there were any. I said, no, all it went through. And again, the female vote was an honorary.
Right.
And that's all we could do because she was over the 70-year age.
Right.
So there's some restrictions in honorary. So it was kind of making her a bishop. She's a bishop, but she doesn't have all the rights and privileges.
Okay.
So you're kind of easing that thing in. And then the next year, hey, let's make these two bishops. They went, we got a woman bishop. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Except these are young enough to be full bishop. Yeah.
Smart man.
Now everybody knows how the Lord moved in there. Y'all in there politicking. Listen, anytime you take a vote, it's politics.
There you go. Leading a group of people, you got to have wisdom and diplomacy. Absolutely. Bishop, I am so honored to talk to you. I know you've had a busy day. I'm going to put your cash app on the screen. Somebody may have watched today and may want to sow into your ministry. I'll be sowing for myself and our church, but my wife is going to put that on the screen. You want to follow Bishop Ellis, you can visit his website. Your website's connected to the church.
That is correct.
greatergrace.org.
Yeah, on my Facebook is, I have two Facebook pages. I have a fan page that is able to receive more than 5,000. Okay. And then I have the 5,000 Facebook page. Both of them are Charles H. Ellis. Is the third Charles H. Ellis. And then on Twitter and on Instagram at Bishop CHE 3. CHE as Charles Haywood Ellis. CHE 3. Bishop at Bishop CHE 3.
So make sure you follow Bishop Ellis and connect with him, his ministry. Are you having you can't have your conference this year? Are you looking to have it next year?
I'm looking at I'm doing something next year, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person. I'm gonna do something next year for real, for sure.
And I'm gonna test your prophetic. Which of the teams? Tigers, Pistons, we got
Lions, Red Wings,
Blackhawks, right?
Red Wings, Chicago Blackhawks.
Right. So which one of the four Detroit teams? Because I looked at the Pistons in last place, they eliminated. Tigers in last place. I don't know how well the Lions did in the draft. Which one of the four Detroit teams will win a championship first?
I have season tickets with the Pistons and have since 1989. So I go to a lot of those games and give them to my Mama Bears. I take some young men from church with me. The Tigers, that's baseball is my love. The Ellis family has been kind to us. They know my dad died on the day that the election went through for tax dollars. The family had me to come and cut the ribbon with them for the new stadium, along with my family. I was invited to the private memorial for Mr. Ellis when he died. The family invited me. So, I love the Tigers. I've been a partner with them. The Lions, I go to Thanksgiving game on Thursday because I go to church on Sundays. The Red Wings, I have never been to a Red Wing game, and I got to get to one Red Wing game. And I got a Jewish attorney. He has season tickets, and he goes all the time. So he says he's gonna take me to a game with that. But who's going to do it? I'm gonna tell you, man. Matt Stafford has been great for the city of Detroit. He and his wife have spent money here, have done some mentorships, have really bettered the lives of the community. I think Jared Goff coming from the Rams, Stafford going to the Rams, LA Rams. I think Jared Goff. I think the Lions might. I know people say, Bishop, come on, are you kidding? Listen. I think that Jared Goff and the Lions might. You got Aaron Rodgers is there. You got to. He ain't going nowhere, and the Packers ain't going nowhere. But I think Jared Goff and the Lions. You never know, man. Somebody gets hurt here. I'm not putting that on nobody, but again, hey, injury is a part of it. I don't know. Somebody catches COVID, can't play in the playoff game. I think that Jared Goff. I think the Pistons have a little ways to go. I think that the Tigers, have to work out some things. I'm not really in the hockey that much, but I really think I'm interested in seeing what Jared Goff and the Lions and can do with the Lions,
especially the Packers get rid of Rodgers, they have an easier path.
Come on, man. We got to be able to beat Chicago and Minnesota. I mean, Chicago ain't had a quarterback in years, and my boy Kirk Cousins, he's from Michigan State, so he's a hometowner here, but he's not all that, So it's all about the Packers, It's all about the Packers. And maybe two teams come out of the North, and the Lions come out. But again, I'm curious to see what Jared Goff is going to do.
You heard it here. You heard it from the Bishop. You heard it from the Bishop. Of the four, the Lions. Put your money on. Like Bishop in closing, my last day, when the time comes and your life is over, life in ministry, what would you want the front page of the newspaper or the tweet to be about you when you pass? All the things you've accomplished in ministry and life, what would you want that headline or tweet to be when they announce your passing?
That he lived out Matthew 20. I was hungry and you didn't feed, and you fed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was outdoors and you took me in. I was sick, you visited me. I was in prison and you came to see about me. Matthew 20. It's in the Bible, you all.
There you go. I know.
25, Matthew 25, one of those. Yeah, 24, 25, somewhere up in there. I would hope that would be it. Because at the end of the day, that's what Jesus says. Jesus says, in as much as you've done this to others, you've done it unto me. So again, it gets back to what do we say all the time? You're so earthly, you're so heavenly bound, you're no earthly good.
Right.
So, if you're really trying to touch the Lord, you got to touch people.
Wow.
And I would hope at the end of the day, man, people would stand up and say, man, that man did this, that man did that, that man did this, that man did that. People talk about what you ought to do. Hey, listen, you need to do what you need to do. And don't worry about what we're doing. I don't worry about what nobody else is doing. I'm concerned about what I need to be doing. And and I would hope, that somebody would say, I'll tell you this. And I think this is a good place to end. I met a lady at the grocery store, a Caucasian lady. And this is like maybe 7 years after my dad had died, maybe 10, 12 years. Anyhow, the lady recognizes me from television. And she stops me and she says, you're Bishop Ellis, right? And I said, yes, I am. She said, can I just talk to you for a minute? I said, sure. She starts talking about she was in prison and she had life sentence and blah, 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 blah. And she starts crying. And she starts saying, your father and your prison ministry from the church came to our facility. And your dad, we were lined up getting ready to go back to our cells. And your dad called me aside And he told me, the Lord just told me to tell you, keep yourself clean in here. I know you're facing life. She said, I don't even know how he knew that. And he said, so you might think you don't have anything to lose, but you got everything to lose. Abide by the rules, walk the straight and narrow, because God said you're not going to die in here.
Wow.
And she cried like a baby in that supermarket. This had to be 11, 12 years after my dad did. And she said, I just wish he was alive and I could tell him that he helped me that day, because I was looking at going for bad, because I'm mad at the world. I ain't got nothing to lose. I'm being here anyway. So what else can y'all do to me? Blah, 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 blah. And I started crying, man. We both crying in the grocery store aisle. And I said, man, when I die, somebody got to tell a story about me. Somebody got to tell a story.
Yes.
Not about how I ruined their life, but how God used me to save their life.
Wow. Bishop Ellis, it is indeed an honor and a privilege to talk to you, to glean from you, to watch you. You have people that you've never met that are praying for you, that are cheering you on, that you're inspiring. And so I can tell you a story, even to your face now, how much you mean to me, and see how you operate with a spirit of excellence and wisdom and diplomacy. And you show me what's possible. You show me what we can accomplish, what the church can do, in particular the apostolic church, the apostolic preacher can do. And so I want you to know, from myself to you, how much you mean to me, to my family, and to my ministry. And I am grateful that you took time out of your schedule to just talk to someone you never met, but you have made a tremendous impact and difference in my life. And I'm grateful to you, sir. And I'm praying for your continued life and ministry and all that you put your hands to do, that any unfinished business, any desires of your heart, any ministries that you want to do, if there's a country you've never preached in, that is still on your list to go, that God will bring to pass in the days ahead the very desires of your heart, in every aspect of the vision that he's given to you. You will see it. You will see it come to pass. Thank you, Bishop Ellis.
Thank you, my friend. And you all have a great night, and please be safe out there.
God bless you. Thanks, everybody, for watching the broadcast tonight with the Honorable Bishop Charles H. Ellis III, former presiding bishop of Pentecostal Assemblies of the World, and the pastor of the Greater Grace Temple in Detroit, Michigan. We're taking next week off, and we invite you to join us on May 24th, as we have the presiding bishop of my home organization, the Way of the Cross Church of Christ International. Presiding Bishop Alfonso D. Brooks will be our guest on May 24th at 7 p.m. And then we close out the month of May on May 31st with Bishop C. Sean Tyson, pastor of Christ Church Apostolic in Indianapolis. And he is also the pastor of Mount Calvary Pentecostal Church in Youngstown, Ohio. We have guests lined up for the month of June, and then we'll take July and August off, and we'll see what the Lord says about this fall. But we're grateful to you, and we invite you to like, to share, to comment, inbox somebody, send them the YouTube link, send them the Facebook link, some young pastor, someone who is experiencing transition, someone who aspires to do more in ministry. We have a role model, we have an example, we have his testimony, we have his teaching. Use this time to learn and to glean and to grow from these great men of God, as they have given us their story. They've been very transparent. They've given us their struggles and their success, and they've shared with us and imparted to not just me, but anyone who will watch this broadcast. And so I want to thank my wife, who is the executive producer of this broadcast, and salute to all the mothers a day after Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you. And always remember, it's never too early to prepare for success. God bless you and have a smile upon you is our prayer.
Looking to start a church, business, or nonprofit organization in 2021? Do you need help forming an LLC, applying for a copyright or trademark, revising church bylaws, crafting a succession plan, or developing a compensation package for your pastor and staff? Contact the law office of Travell Travis, a Richmond-based legal boutique focused on the needs of pastors, entrepreneurs, creatives, and our community. Let's make your vision a reality in 2021. Visit TravellTravis.com. That's TravellTravis.com. If you're concerned about the future of your organization when you step down, then where will the mantle fall? A biblical and legal guide to succession planning is a must-read for you. It delves into the scriptural and legal aspect of succession planning, characteristics of successors, the people, the process, church bylaws, common myths, even issues with nepotism. Where will the mantle fall? Written by Richmond's own attorney, Pastor Travell Travis, and available at Amazon.com.